This is something that I learned after spending a little bit of time with Tony Robbins recently. I call it how to read the minds of your prospects and customers in any market and make them want to buy from you. And it actually came from an interview that I did with Tony when he launched his last book. And he said these 3 words, which I'll share with you in just a moment. And I realized those words apply to any business in any market, even though he was specifically talking about people's fear of money and investing. So I started processing it and tweaking a few things, and I realized one day while I was doing a training at our studios here in San Diego, how effective it was. And a week later, I was sitting down with one of my high-end $30,000 per day private coaching clients, and I opened up and I used this technique with him and gave him perfect clarity on how to speak precisely to his market. And as a result, he made a lot more money. Now, I can't disclose any more than that just because I can't share specifically who it is. But what I want to do for you right now is give you this training, which I've never shared with anyone else outside of one training at our studio and several of my personal private coaching clients. But I think it will make a huge difference in how you connect with your prospects and your customers. So the words that Tony talked about were loss, less, and never. Okay? Now I added one more, which is always, and I'll explain more of this in a little while. So loss, less, never. Why does that matter in the first place? Well, here's the context. He says the cause of human suffering and problems revolves around loss, less, and never. I thought, that's interesting, Tony. And he just went on and continued talking, but it provides the basis for the structure on how he does his interventions. Okay? That's powerful because I've watched Tony and over years with the way he manages interventions. It's really fascinating. So here's the other framework. So loss, less, never. And then we have the biggest niches in the world. And in chat right now, here's what I want you to do. Type in the type of business you have, followed by one of these 3 words. So are you in the money business? Are you in the relationships business? Or the health business? Okay? In some way, shape, or form, every single product or service somehow relates to one of these 3 things. It's either making money or investments or and time and money are the same thing, or relationships with a significant other or anything. It could be business relationships or health, fitness, nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. So go ahead, type those in. Tell me what business you're really in. Then I'm going to give you something funny. So you're in the money, relationships, or health business. Okay? So I'm going to wait and see this get tabulated right now. And I see mental health, all of these. Money. Interesting. Health. Okay? Diane doesn't know. Dr. Marilyn says health business. There we go. Dr. George. Love Dr. George. Herbs and health. Yes. Lolita, money and relationships. Great. So that's good so far. Next up, I have to say one funny thing here. As I like to say, it's all about getting paid, getting laid, or living forever. Ultimately, the closer you have to that promise, the more likely you are to being able to connect with your personal audience. Now, of course, I'm joking here, but I like to use this, and I teach, and I always say, hey, what is it about? Getting paid, getting laid, or living forever? And it knocks people out. It's basically a pattern interrupt. So I borrowed a little bit from Tony Robbins in using this, but those are the 3 niches. Everything is a derivation of that. Okay? So, next question is this. Do you buy into your own lies? The truth is we are all prisoners inside our own minds. We have reasons why we can't and reasons why they don't and reasons why we don't, and so do your prospects and your customers. The reason why they don't make a decision about anything is because they're afraid of either having less, losing what they have, or never getting what they want. And it all comes back to getting paid, getting laid, or living forever. And I will break this down for you. And I'm going to do it in the context of some of my own issues, okay? So if I asked you right now, and type this in, where is most of your anxiety and panic in your life coming from right now, okay? Now, if we had more time, I'd say, where is it coming from? Where's most of your money anxiety and panic coming from? And if I asked you, where are most of your relationships, panic, and life coming from? Or where are most of your health issues coming from? And then if I asked you to prioritize them, I'd be able to figure out an awful lot about you and how to speak with you. So again, type those in right now. And I know it means you're being vulnerable in a chat room, okay? I get it. But if you're willing to and you're courageous enough to tell me where most of your anxiety and panic is coming from, it's going to be very, very helpful. So I'm going to continue and tell you a story about me. And this is the next one. We either live in the past or in the future. In other words, we've got a dominant stage we live in. So here's the way it works. If you live in the past, you talk often about the way things used to be. The past equals depression. Okay? Now again, it's powerful psychology. It may take a little bit of processing, but anytime you listen to someone and their fear, which is lost, less, never, and how it's related to the past or the future, they have an old story. In other words, the prison that they live in their own mind has something to do with the past and money and the way they're never going to have something ever again. It's lost, less, and never. Or they say something like always. All right? So the future, if you're future focused, you have anxiety. You're afraid of running out and not having enough. Okay? So people who are anxious versus depressed are living in the future predominantly, in their own minds. They're afraid of what's going to happen. Okay? So why is this important? Well, first of all, I have a tendency, because I grew up lower middle class, I perceived myself to be poor, which isn't true, of course, but it's a story I attached myself to. And I felt insignificant. I felt stupid. I was bad in school. I was small for my age. I was not very good when it came to communicating successfully, etc., etc. So I was anxious about the future. I was afraid of getting beat up. I was afraid of losing and having less or never getting what I wanted, okay? And it usually revolved around money. I wasn't as concerned about health or relationships because I had both. I had a good family. I had decent health. So anxious about the future, and it had to do with money. And that was my wound, okay? When you understand people's wounds, boom, you can market to them really, really easily. And people give that stuff away in their communication all the time. So if you learn how to listen to your customers, you can figure out how to become incredibly attractive to them. In fact, this is the exact same formula that I use to help people figure out a perfect book title and subtitle, a perfect speech, a perfect name for their product and service. It's all based around this simple psychology. Okay, so as I said, my example comes from fear of not having enough money, future, which is anxiety, and having less. Okay, everything comes down to like a 3x3 grid, and you can boil any marketing message and any problem into that little bitty grid. Okay, so growing up, the number one thing that I heard my mom and dad say is we can't afford it. I was the oldest of 4 kids. My dad had 4 jobs. He was a barber, he was a city clerk, he was a building inspector, and then he played guitar. And at 80 years old, he still plays guitar at rest homes and other places, always hustling to make money to take care of his family. Okay, he grew up really, really poor, and never had an education beyond high school. And his dad, in fact, on the little farm he grew up on, didn't even want him to go to high school. So, but my wound was, well, we can't afford it. I couldn't have what I wanted. I wanted technology. I wanted to grow, and I wanted I just heard this thing. Okay, growing up, if someone asked me, what do you want? I'd say, I want to be rich, warm, and first, okay? So I worked my ass off. I started working full-time the day I turned 16. I always hated growing up cold in Minnesota, and because my dad worked so much, we were late and last for everything. We always got the nothing, okay? So the bottom line here is, I was driven by these fears, and if someone spoke to me directly and said, Mike, I know exactly what you want, okay? I know exactly how it feels to be you. I can imagine exactly, and they could get me into a mode and tell me anything, I'd be like, I want that, okay? And that's how this is done, okay? It's very, very powerful psychology, not to be abused, okay? So, Whenever you ask questions of people and it revolves around these, you listen and you reflect back on what you hear and ask great questions of your prospects. They will give away everything that's going on, whether they're living in the past or in the future, depressed or anxious, how they feel and what their wounds have to do with. And when you present your product and your service in the context of that, boom, they want to do business with you. And this goes back to another important lesson. It's something that I practiced, for example, when I wrote Cancerpreneur, which was I wrote for a market of one. In this case, I wrote to a good friend who was diagnosed with cancer, and I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly what was going on inside her mind, and she fit my perfect market demographic. Now, I did it as a gift of love, and people can feel that when they read what you create, but they can also feel it when you create your Facebook Lives, for example. So the point is, when you write for a market of one, you'll attract more customers like them. I'm going to give you a real example of something that worked exactly like this, okay? So this is a gentleman. He's a client of a client, and his name is Frank Butler. And what he did is he had a problem, okay? His problem was he had a service, a company that provides boxed lunches to hotels that are nutritious and healthy, imagine that, and they're packaged in ecologically friendly packaging, okay? So there isn't a bunch of waste. His problem was he couldn't get in to meet with the CEO so he could pitch his product or his service. So what he did is he wrote a book, and he had been trying to get into one person. So he very, very intelligently, and this, by the way, is the client of Rob Cuesta. I have to give credit where credit is due. Thank you, Rob. He wrote this book, and it's called Wake Up to the Great British Breakfast Scandal, How British Hotels Are Giving Away Millions to the Fast Food Industry, and How You Can Stop the Rot. Okay, you can see it right there. Now, what happened, and this again was the challenge he had, he just couldn't get his foot in the door. So he wrote this book to an audience of one. He gave it to the influencers of that CEO. There were like 6 or 8 people. And several of them, almost simultaneously, connected with the CEO and said, you've got to read this book. It's as if it were written to you, about you, and for you. Of course, he looked at the book, and it was, okay? Gave Frank a call, and he ended up getting not only the book into the hands of the gatekeepers, but the message reached the CEO. He closed a $180,000 deal, okay? And I think what's important about this is not only that, he wound up generating 39 other leads and closing 6 more deals that were worth over $1 million. So as I like to say, because he understood the message, market, and how to communicate a big idea, with his book in this case, what wound up happening is he created a book that made $1 million without having to sell a copy. That is a great example of success, all right? Now we could deep dive. I could spend a half day or a day just on this topic. But the people you focus on when you're creating your messaging is the best customer is someone who's paid you, implements, gets results, pays you again multiple times, and then refers high quality people to you. So when you do this process, what I always do, and when I speak to customers, I like to say, the only person who gets a vote that you determine are people who've paid you. Family doesn't count, and people who type in chat, for example, on Facebook or in YouTube comments who are giant jerks, for example, don't get a vote. You don't listen to anyone except the ones who are writing out checks, okay? Those are the customers you do this test on. So when you get your message tuned to the right person, which could be a business partner or a CEO or whomever it happens to be, that right fit person, that's when you're going to sell a lot of products. And the medium you deliver in, it could be a book, it can be speaking, it can be on LinkedIn, it can be on Facebook. It all is universal. So the other thing is trying to pack multiple messages into one medium is a mistake. In other words, this is one book, and one piece of advice I give all of our clients who go through Publish and Profit, for example, is make a thin book. You can write as many books as you want. Amazon will let you publish as many books as you want for free and pay you for it. Don't try to pack too many ideas into one book. One message, one market, one problem, boom. Get some leads, close some deals, and make more money. So that is loss less never and always, and how you can use and implement it in your business. And if this is something that you enjoy, I've got a big idea for you. It's a way that we can actually work together, and I can help deconstruct your business and reach more people. If that's something you're interested in, please type it into chat right now, because I'm going to give you something. So the bottom line is the loss less never always. What are they afraid of losing? Okay. What are they afraid they're going to have less of? Okay. What are they afraid is never going to happen? Less loss never. Or what do they say always happens right now? Those are the 4 questions that I ask a prospect or a customer whenever I'm determining what to say to them to reach them in an easy way. I'll give you that to you one more time, okay? So here it is. What are they afraid of losing? What are they afraid they're going to have less of? What are they afraid is never going to happen? Or what do they say always happens right now? This always happens to me. All right. So in terms of past and the future, okay, that's how you gain instant rapport with an audience, okay? Talking to them about their anxieties or what they're sad about, okay? And you look for patterns of behavior. That helps you, and these people actually write your copy. They write your messaging for you, okay? And it's just a process of pattern recognition. Listen to past and future comments, loss less never always, and if it's money, relationships, or health, or get paid, get laid, or live forever. All right, that's loss less never always. So I just told you a moment ago, and if you're interested in working with me, I've got an opportunity for you that I want to tell you about, and it's personal coaching. Now, I work with a small number of business owners every single year, and right now I've got 4 opportunities available for us to work together. So if you have a business right now, and it has to be a real business, or if you're a reinventor, meaning you've started a new business and maybe you've sold a business or you retired, you want to get back in the game again, and you'd like me to help you figure out what your product needs to be, what your message needs to be, how you're going to write a book and make it a bestseller and get personal hands-on. If you want someone to help you structure your speech or a presentation, or help you build your celebrity status, or help you close more deals, that's what this is about and for. I'm going to give you a little example right now. This is Mari Carmen Pizarro. Now, she's part of our coaching and our mastermind group that I have with Ed Rush. And she had been in the business of training and teaching VP level people how to move into C-level or CEO level positions, something that can be very expensive for a corporation to hire for, or expensive if they lose some people. So what we did with her is, prior to that, she was charging less than $100,000 for her service. We gave her some language patterns to use, nothing complicated, but we in turn helped her close a deal. First one was $425,000. What was great is someone else in the same organization contacted her and said, hey, can we get the same good deal the other person had? Now think about that. Prior to this, $80,000 deals, now $425,000 deals. She raised her prices because of the language pattern she uses, and that's what's important about this loss less never thing, okay? That's one example of what can happen in as little, sometimes it's a phone conversation, okay? In a day, you can change the way you work with all of your prospects and your customers. This is another one of our clients, Irene Tomo Cooper, who, as a result of going through our programs and getting some personal coaching, she ended up closing a $71,000 contract, which was $25,000 for the first year with the U.S. consulate. It started with her book, changed with her messaging, and prior to that, she's been a love coach. Now she's doing international training, okay? So, as I'd said, we all live inside prisons of our own minds, and sometimes it's learning how to listen better that gets us out of it, and also just getting some practical, tactical advice that'll get you to the next place. And I think I can help you. In fact, I know for a fact I can. So if you want to grow your business quickly, I'm taking on 4 clients, and this is a business advisor application. You can learn more. It's a simple fill in the blanks at yen.tv/advisor. This is expensive, I'll let you know that. And again, I'm very, very cautious about who I take on as a client. But if this is a right fit for you, head on over there right now to yen.tv/advisor, and I know for a fact I can help you build and grow your business, make a lot more money this year, and get absolute clarity and vision on what you want to do to build and grow your business. So head on over there right now if this is something that you feel like I can help you accelerate to the next level.